Each Sunday night, I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
With your hosts, Keith Varney and... I'm adding the and now. It's more professional.
Way back in high school, most every night, my mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo, what could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
I'm almost cleanly shaven today because of a beard mishap.
I'm a little more pepper and a little less salt.
I was wondering. And welcome to the Out of Practice Podcast, a weekly podcast in which me, the mistakenly clean-shaven guy, and the slightly less geriatric Mike and Daglio discuss the David E. Kelley's award-winning series, The Practice. This week, we are up to Season 7, Episode 3 of The I Sing. Sing me the tale of your dark, dark hair. Look at this. I feel like we have 30s in Daglio now.
Yeah. So back in the day when I would shave, I would look 15. And now when I shave, I look 30. So right. I had a couple of auditions and self-tapes and things happening.
Please, sir, I think the ship is sinking.
Yeah, and I watched them back and said, no, I have to attend the tale of Sweeney Todd. So I bought a box of my stuff and I made it happen.
Looks good. I mean, they honestly do a pretty good job of like mixing in, like blending a little bit, so it's not quite so like shoe polishy. It looks good. Yeah, well done.
It does. It'll pass for the. I mean, as we've mentioned on the show before, I won't belabor the point. Self tapes are just an exercise in masochism. Anyway,
they really are.
And what sucks for me, like usually when I have to do Jen's tapes too, because she's not a technological person, so editing those is fun because I'm like, oh, she's so talented, she sounds great, and I really get into it. And when I'm editing mine, I just like, as bare bones as I can do it, I was like, let's just get it done because I can't look at myself.
No, it really is like an art form designed to create self-hatred in actors. It's tough. I mean, because Jillian does them constantly. Like this morning, like because she, of circumstances, she had to get up this morning and finish her self-tape at 6 a.m. to get it in by the 9 a.m. deadline. Like, so she's up there like belting her face off doing this audition at 6 a.m. this morning. It's like, because that's what you got to do. That's the, 9 a.m. deadline for this enormous audition.
There's only so many like lighting setups and things you can try, but like you always are sweating, or you're too hot, or then you start like, obsessing about how you look. And I give myself like 4 takes and that's it, because otherwise you're just going to go down a rabbit hole of depression. It never ends well.
No, it really does. It's hard. It is like psychologically very difficult to do that.
But I want to say there is a show, we're weird and superstitious. We don't say things that were in the...
Sure.
Well, this isn't even a callback. This is just a submission, but this particular one. But I did use a Keith Varney original.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What did you sing?
For contemporary pop rock, I always do the opening of I Got Fired. I just think it's funny. I think it lets you belt a little bit, and it's good.
Well, it's perfect because This Day in the Basement is going to start to dovetail with that little piece of theater history. So
can't wait.
That is exciting. I've somehow made us disappear. I don't know, like my Skype got minimized. Oh, there I am. Oh, hi. Oh, hi, me.
Why podcast if you can't stare at yourself while you're doing it?
I mean, really, the only reason I podcast is so I can stare at myself for 2.5 hours and then have the option to listen to myself for 2.5 hours all over again, because we're weird.
So listen,
But,
before we get,
yeah.
speaking of staring at ourselves, before we get into the hot cat content, which I spoiled a few minutes ago by having the logo up, can you tell us of the beard mishap? Because we both are 5 o'clock in ourselves here. They call it.
It's one of those things where, because I have one of like the electric trimmer dealies, and it's got the little head attachment you put on it, and so I just, I set it to my usual thing and started shaving, realizing I had the head attachment on backwards. So instead of taking off a little bit, it was taking off everything and leaving a little bit. And I was like halfway done. I'm like, is there any way to rescue this? And I'm like, nope. No. You can make it shorter, you can't make it longer. So here we are, chubby cheeks. Although, before I start talking about my chubby cheeks and jowls, friend of the show, my mother, definitely was like, you fat shame yourself too much on the podcast. So, and she's right. She's 100% right.
Yeah, but that's sort of like your brand.
Well, my brand is self-shaming in all possible categories. But, that one is probably one I should get away from because it is not unique to myself. Because I certainly would never want to shame anybody else. Myself, I can go for myself all day long. But seriously, it's not a thing to be shaming. We are who we are. And we carry around, sometimes literally, what we carry around. So there it is. I will just shame myself for all of the things that are specific to myself, such as my narcissism and such. All right. Anyway, so let's hop into. I'm having a weird morning already. I don't even know
to let you go there, buddy.
I don't know what's happening. I was in a good mood. I don't know what happened.
You're in a good mood now.
Of course, I'm in a good mood. I'm podcasting with you, Mike. How could I not be in a good mood?
Ow! The cat is biting the shit out of my feet.
I feel like that's a perfect segue, too.
We have tried for years to make this podcast a success.
We failed!
It's time to give the world what it wants.
Meow, meow!
Hot cat content.
Meow, meow.
Hot cat content.
Meow, meow.
Hot cat content.
Meow.
There it is. So as I was preparing for this day in the basement, as I am wont to do, because that is a segment on our podcast, I went back into the old emails, and I found, actually, from a friend of the show, my mom, she sent me some pictures from around the house that very day. And of course, we will be, spoiler alert, talking about October 13th, the year 2002, when the practice aired. But on this very day, she took this very picture. Let's see it. And that is Charlie Sr. Now, I know you look at like, that's Charlie Jr. It's not. That's Charlie Sr. You can tell he has the same facial structure, same long hair, and even the same like little notch on his nose over his left eye. The way you can tell Charlie Sr. and Charlie Jr. is Charlie Sr. has the black nose and Charlie Jr. has a pink one.
Oh, what a cute. And he's got a little bit of the chunk style happening there.
Oh, yeah. No, he was we're not fat shaming today, Mike.
And we're cat shaming. Hey-oh.
But, yeah, he was awesome. And what you can tell there, he is yowling about something. He had a lot to say. Charlie Sr. had a lot more to say than Charlie Jr., who just sort of makes little sad meows when he's lonely. So, it's pretty cute. We had a nice morning with Charlie Jr. What's going on with your cats?
Well, Keith, in my never-ending quest to spend every dollar I have on my cats, it's coming up to be time where, those viewers and listeners with sensitive ears, turn off the pod now because I'm going to use some fresh language here.
Oh, no.
I've been calling Tuxie Bob lately. And Bob stands for, that's interesting that the logo is such a weird place. It's not where it's supposed to be at all. Anyway,
God. Cat content's in a different place.
It doesn't make any sense. It's not supposed to be there, Keith. That's the problem.
God damn it.
Anyway, I've been calling him Bob
figure of a cat.
I've been calling him Bob lately for big old balls because my little guy here has a hefty set. And he is less than a month before we remove them. which is generally pretty breezy, easy. However, the litter he came from Jen's mom, had only 2 boys, and his brother went in to get his procedure about 2 weeks ago and died.
Oh God, right.
And
From the anesthesia, yeah.
we don't know. It could have been a ton of things. Like here, the way the vets have explained it is that the neutering a male cat is less than a 10-minute procedure. Like it is
It's
incredibly easy. And so it could have been a genetic reaction, could have been a heart condition that was, but could have been a lot of things, right? But because our vet is about as obsessive as we are, she consulted with this vet down in North Carolina about the procedure. She's got a whole new protocol. She's going to do this. She's going to have 2 nurses on staff, blah, blah. So our generally free to $100 neutering procedure has now turned into a full friggin' pre-op, post-op, blood test. This little kitten who our other cats, I just dropped off at the ASPCA for free, and then they come back neutered. But now it's a whole freaking Grey's Anatomy situation with this cat. So that's what's doing. We had a consult with the Jen's I had a consult. She sent me the voicemail. It was 10 minutes long. Oh boy.
But that's that's scary. I understand why you'd want to be extra careful. We had a problem when I had Toad, the cat we've talked about previously on the show. When he got his snipped, he had an infection, and I caught it and took him right back to the vet, and he was fine. But that got a little scary too, from it. So luckily, Junior came to us clean. He came to us deballed already. So
as they say, that's a very official term.
The deballing of the cat. Well, I'm sure everyone here is wishing Tux Bob the very best, and I'm sure he will be fine. And he might not be thrilled about the situation downstairs when he's done there, but
it's gonna be all right.
He won't even know. That's the fun thing. He'll just be a little calmer. No problem. All right. Well, we have a lot to talk about again this week. We have a sometimes we make fun of the fact that we are not the better podcast because we throw out a whole bunch of questions into the ether and have no answers to, and it's not as if there aren't answers to our questions. We are just too lazy to go forth and answer them. But happily, our friends and family who listen to our little show are ready to fill the void and step up, including founding sponsor Jorge Novoa, who has 2 exciting contributions to the podcast today, starting with, you know what? I didn't even give the bumper. So, starting with the segment we call
Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas.
Jorge, a week or 2 ago, I can't remember when he wrote in, but he was he said that he's been busy. Also, founding sponsor Phoenix. Everybody's been busy, guys. We get it. You're busy. We get it. Yeah. You know what I mean? The
just
numbers.
Just because we're not doesn't mean that you aren't.
But in almost as a mea culpa, Jorge has gone above and beyond this week. Has really had a lot to say, as has Phoenix. Everybody's has weighed in, and I can't wait to get into it here.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So, and as is typical, I haven't read it yet, so I don't even know what he's gonna say. So here we go.
Read it.
Let's hear, because you're the better podcast host. But here we go. Jorge says, "Hi, sirs. For several weeks now, you've asked 2 great questions. One of them being, why didn't Donald Young Dolan Frutt use self-defense in Lindsay's trial? Definitely. Right? Seeing as back in season 3, Judge Hiller shut them down from doing the same in the case of Professor Pearson, I decided to do a little research to figure out how much was just a complication for drama's sake and how much was based on actual law. Oh my God, this is great. Here's what I found."
You could have summarized that much faster, Jorge, by saying, I decided to do your job.
I decided to step in and do your job, you lazy nincompoops. He continues, "The Massachusetts self-defense law states, A person has the right to defend themselves and others against danger only if all of the following are met. Let's tick these off. 1. You must reasonably believe yours or others' safety is in immediate danger. You must avoid using force, gun, or knife when other options are available, such as attempting to retreat. And you may not use more force than what is reasonably necessary, i.e. shooting your stalker repeatedly. Also, in the event that deadly force is used, a defendant facing murder charges can use the self-defense only if the trespasser assailant is also armed with deadly weapon. With a deadly weapon, that makes so much sense, such as he was a cannibal. That's true.
I'm giving you a half point for that.
Yeah, okay. Now, Massachusetts does have a castle doctrine, stand your ground law, which states the occupant of a dwelling charged with killing a trespasser in the dwelling does not have a duty to retreat before using force against them. Ooh, this gets muddy. And he continues, hey, isn't that exactly what happened with Lindsay? Awesome. We've got her out. Case closed. Not so fast.
Easy.
That's putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Read correctly. The occupant charged with killing a trespasser in the dwelling. There was no trespasser that night. O'Malley did not enter the home unlawfully. He knocked on the door. Lindsay opened the door without clasping the chain or even asking who it was. When she saw who it was, she made no attempt to shut it in his face and lock it. In fact, not only did he not break in, he didn't even enter. He stood before the threshold like a proper cannibal vampire. So, given that O'Malley didn't trespass, wasn't armed, didn't threaten her with immediate danger, and she, in turn, shot him 3 times without even attempting an alternative, the reason Lindsay's lawyers didn't claim self-defense was because Lindsay didn't meet a single criteria for self-defense.
I would say that we could argue, I'm not saying that you would win, but you could argue that maybe reasonably 2 of those points were met. Imminent danger and, faced with the person, she might have, it would be a stretch. But I think to his point, I think it was such a stretch that they felt they had a more reasonable chance with the other things.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think Jorge is dead on here.
I
This
felt we had to contribute, so I thought I'd argue against it.
First off, Jorge, fantastic
Yeah.
work. Fantastically written and outlined, and that is perfect and explains everything.
Keith, I'm sorry to make this decision without consulting you or CEO Jen, but Jorge, you're getting a 5% kickback of all of the net profits of this week's episode for that work.
Enjoy 5% of 0. But actually, you know what? Take out some of your contributions. Take out 5% of 1/4 of your contributions this month. Well, I mean, I think the only one that there's even an argument is her reasonably believing that her or others' safety was an immediate danger. I think she could meet that threshold.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think
With
that
the baby,
that is.
they really should have hung on the baby more.
So it certainly could have done that. Using more force when other options are available, such as attempting retreat. She certainly could have retreated back into the apartment, locked another door. There were 2 adults versus 1, so a physical confrontation. He wasn't armed. Using a gun in that situation does seem like the most extreme option, and and in the more force than is reasonably necessary. I don't know. That's Jorge. I finally understand, and I wish. Here's the thing. I wish. What I would like to do.
Yeah, have a conference scene where they talk about other stupid stuff, or they have an argument that's unnecessary, and just give me that exposition.
Yes. Well, and that's why I would like to propose. Let us, somebody out there, build a time machine, and I would like to appoint Jorge as a staff writer on season 7 of The Practice, who could and the end of season 6 that could have made sure that this was explained to us as clearly and succinctly as he just did in that filing. All right, fantastic. Thank you, Jorge. That was awesome. Now, if somebody else would like to let us know they've built that time machine, or would like to, tithe 5% of their earnings to Jorge for that explanation, how would they do it, Mike?
Well, if you're on the YouTube, you could cast your gaze below, or just listen up. You can write us an email, outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. People have written emails. People have sent audio files. People have crafted entire sub-podcasts to be aired. Photoshops. We used to have this guy who would, pretend to like my weather segment. It was great. It has fallen off a cliff because Keith and I are pumping out hours of content fast and furious, and no human being can possibly keep up. But if you'd like to, please do. Even if you're in the past and we're in the future, write us an email, guys. We're lonely old guys.
Clearly.
outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. You can also check us out on evil Facebook @outofpracticepodcast. Or you know what? Do the world a favor and just delete your account and hit us up on the Instagram, also owned by Facebook. So, I guess
Whoa.
equally. But look,
Boy, Mike's coming for Facebook today. Do you watch a documentary?
I did some reading, Keith. All right, did some reading.
Guys, Mike reads. Mike is a
If
reader.
you didn't know, all right. Anyway, our social media is @outofpracticepodcast. Leave us a rating or a review if you like the podcast. If you're concerned with why you enjoy our banter, which some
As you
people are
should be.
confused. Yeah, you know what? It's okay. Just talk to your therapist about it. But while you're doing that, leave us a rating or review on any of your podcast services of choice. And while you're at that, check out Look at My Star Trek Toys show on YouTube, KME Entertainment. It's just a YouTube show. We are moving and shaking in that department too. And guess what? Even if you don't even watch the Star Trek, just like me, you can still have a good time playing with toys. We're chitting and chatting.
Yep.
It's a hell of a good time.
And I just might have bought an entire estate's collection of Star Trek toys at a price I did not tell my wife about. So
Keith's in deep.
I'm in so deep.
I can't divulge things on this podcast because my wife listens, but
That's true.
we can air your laundry.
The safest way for me to divulge this information from my wife is this podcast. All right. Well, you know what? We have another contribution from our good friend Jorge, and it is a contribution for our recurring segment, the very important
Back in time.
It's been so long.
Yes. So Jorge is going to help answer question number 2 that we have asked. In late August 1972, special agents in Tennessee were searching for a moonshine distillery when they discovered 115 pounds of marijuana hanging inside a barn. A short time later, still keeping the area under surveillance, they spotted 3 men going in the barn. The men were caught taking small amounts of weed and eventually were arrested. During their individual interrogations, none of them answered any of the agents' questions, not even to plead innocence. Subsequently, they were charged with possession and intent to sell. During their trial, however, all 3 men testified in their own defenses, each claiming they were only hanging out in the secluded area, then happened upon the weed. Cut to closing arguments, during which District Attorney General told the jury the men were taken back to jail and were questioned. And at this point, something very significant happened. They don't want to make an explanation. They don't want to tell the officers that they were just innocent victims of bizarre circumstances, as they present to you today. The jury agreed this did not seem like the actions of innocent people, and so they were convicted. The 3 men who were sentenced to 1 year in the penitentiary. Case closed, justice served. Or was it? As you probably already know, more or less, almost 10 years earlier, Ernesto Miranda was arrested by the Phoenix PD accused of kidnapping and raping an 18-year-old, and following a 2-hour interrogation, he confessed. But he was never told of his right to keep his garbagey, rapey mouth shut. That's right, Miranda warnings was the Miranda warning is named after a piece of shit who was rightfully arrested but wrongfully convicted. Which then begs the question, what is the point of having such a warning? Of being told you have a right to remain silent, the Fifth Amendment, and the right to counsel, Sixth Amendment, if exercising those rights can be used against you? Well, thanks to these 3 men in the original case, it can't. They filed an appeal, Braden versus the state, and argued that very point. And in 1976, the appeals court agreed, ruling, a prosecutor may not comment upon the defendant's failure to make a statement to the police because this would punish the defendant for exercising his or her constitutional right to remain silent. That's the ruling in Braden v. State. Effectively answering your second question from last week's episode. Why is it such a big deal that ADA Walsh brought up Lindsay lawyering up right after the murder? Because we have case laws telling us they can't. P.S. To my delight, they also state it is improper. 1. To refer to the defendant as a rabid dog or any other derogatory names in State v. Baines. For a prosecutor to comment unfavorably upon a defendant's pro se representation of himself or his case. Coker v. State. Interesting. To reflect unfavorably upon defense counsel or the trial tactics employed during the course of a trial. State v. Paget. That happens every damn episode. To make biblical and scriptural references during the prosecutor's closing argument. State v. Middlebrooks. Smart. Lastly, State v. Stevenson made it improper to 1. Refer to the Lord's Prayer. Refer to the defendant as the evil one. Call into action the need to combat and destroy the evil one. Wow. Jorge, I have learned so much. That is, once again, a brilliant contribution, explains and improves previous episodes of the practice that we have seen. Now I get it.
And you're really blossoming. You know, you used to be very straight down the middle, and now you've added a bit of editorializing, and I really am here for it.
We are 100% here for it. All right, so I double down on my can we please have Jorge go back in time and explain these things during the course of the episode, because it would have made it make so much more sense. Yeah. I would have, because not knowing these things, I'm like, this argument seems a little thin, seems a little weird, and
it's because when we started this journey, the show was much more a legal drama, and it's really become more of a drama. Right, the legal has started to drama. Fade away. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's basically become Criminal Minds. But nonetheless, that is fantastic. That makes so much sense. Now I understand where they were coming from. I just wish they had clued in the dum-dums watching the show, so that we understood that what you were doing was perfectly legit and interesting. But it's if we're too much of a dum-dum.
My guess is the judge making you show your penis or stand in the dunce corner is probably on that list somewhere.
Probably, I would imagine.
In the list, yeah.
Yes, this list does not lend us to believe it would be proper to show penises in the courtroom. Multiple, because we have seen over the course of this series, multiple peni.
I spy with my little eye some very long and identifiable peni.
Congratulations. That should have been the song for the musical. That could have been that could have been the finale of your musical from last week. All right. Well, before we make the finale of this podcast, because we are running so freaking long, it is time to hop back into the time machine and talk about the aforementioned date, October 13th, the year 2002, and answer the eternal question, Mike, what was going on?
This day in the basement.
Keith, well, you'll recall I've traveled back in time myself.
You have, yeah.
As I skipped a year of my life. Thank God for Kelly Clarkson and a moment like this, which made me realize the error of my ways. So
you were in the wrong moment.
yes, a moment like that, because I'd skipped it entirely. So October 13th, the fall in New York City is always wonderful. What I recall about that Harlem apartment, which was epic and wonderful and huge, and I wish I could have one, and this was many of my apartments in New York, was that they either almost exclusively every apartment, except for the last one in Queens, specifically this Harlem one, either this was the first time I had gas heat. They ran gas heat in. And it was ridiculously expensive. I don't know if it was like the unit in the basement was broken, probably, or just natural gas in Brooklyn in the early aughts was expensive.
So you
probably.
were paying for heat in the apartment?
Well, Keith, we were at that time.
Because usually heat and hot water are included in New York.
Well, usually the hot water is the heat. That's why. You see, this is gas heat. Anyway, point being, we weren't paying for it because we was broke.
Gas heat. You got gas heat.
Well, thanks for joining us for another installment of the Out of Practice podcast. If you'd like to join, we weren't paying the gas heat because we turned that shit to zero. And them be cold falls and winters. We just started wearing sweaters, earmuffs, jackets inside our apartment because it was cold. But that's not the story I wanted to tell today. The story I want to tell today is one of my favorite memories from that apartment in Harlem, New York. Was this neighbor? I think he lived in the building. Hard to say because
Possibly.
he never left the stoop of the building. Some may say he was selling drugs. Some may say he was on drugs.
Some may say.
But he was always there and super friendly to us. He felt like a bodyguard because, sometimes you see people who may be bad guys, but you're like, at least he's on my team. I was happy to live in the building with him. And I don't know his name. All I can tell you is that his name, we called him Chillin' because his response to every question or comment you made to him, at him, or in his general direction was chillin'. You'd be like, hey, man, what's up? Chillin'. Hey, dude, cold out, right? Chillin'. Why were the cops here yesterday? Chillin'. That's all he said. And so he's gone down in my New York lore as Chillin'. He will be a character in a play at some point from somebody. But
you have to write that play.
This is a shout out to Chillin' on 127th and St. Nick. Keith, talk to me. This day in the basement.
That's better than the stoop pooper that Jillian dealt with a lot of times, because somebody would poop on her stoop every night.
Every night.
Yeah, pretty much like a human being would poop on her stoop every night.
Creatures of habit.
Yeah, stoop pooper. All right, well, so I have a very interesting, at least to me, it's autobiographically interesting to me.
Yeah, you're listening to our podcast, so buckle up.
Yeah, story about, because this week I had finished up my temp job at WebMD, which was the first job I had in New York City. I signed up with a temp agency. That's where they sent me out. I did nothing for 2 weeks. It was whatever. And so I went to my second temp job, and this was at the NYU School of Medicine. And this job, I was started basically as like the office monkey. I was like, delivering mail and like making deliveries all over the city and doing scut work or whatever. But guess what? I ended up staying at this job for the next 6 years, cutting out the temp agency and, becoming a big part of this office. And the office was the CME office, and that is a continuing medical education office, which means we set up, did set up. I don't work there anymore. Spoiler alert, from your song. We set up medical conferences for continuing education. So if you're a doctor, you have to like get X amount of credits from going to conferences to get updated protocols on blah, 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 and all the various courses. And what we did, we were sort of like a meeting planning and accreditation event. So we handled accrediting the meetings, thus like proving that they were actually academically relevant and free from commercial bias. because all the drug companies really wanted to give a lot of money and, get their boner pills sold at the meeting. And so anyway, so I started there, and my boss, Kathy Granger, she would not be sad to, I think she'd be very proud to be on a podcast. No, she wouldn't. She wouldn't care. We became close friends over that course of years, and it was something that kept me alive in the city for a long time, and Kathy helped turn me into from a shy, polite little, Vermont boy to a tough-ass New Yorker. What demo is this? Is this you?
No, this is just an accompaniment track that somebody made for me at some point.
Wait, you had somebody make you an accompaniment track? You didn't ask me?
I think I needed somebody to transpose it on the fly or something. I can't recall. This is old, but I just happen to have it, so I use it.
It's pretty accurate, though.
It's a step up, I think.
Pretty close. Yeah, whoever did that did a good job.
It's my buddy Wes, I think.
Oh, all right. Well, Wes, good job. I have heard various compositions of mine.
Oh, so have I, Keith.
Butchered.
So have I. I've been a part of many of them.
Oh my goodness. I have the song from that show, Kathy's Office Down the Hall, which is, I guess, my quote unquote hit. That's all over YouTube, and Lord Almighty, does that get butchered. Anyway, so I was starting at NYU, and I think the other sort of interesting to anybody but me part of this was October of 2002 at the NYU Medical Center, and our office was on 30th Street between First Ave and the FDR Highway. And that was also where the morgue was. And so that entire street, when I started there, the street had just been partially reopened because it had been closed. Have a huge tent complex there to serve as the 9/11 morgue. And so all of the bodies were brought to exactly that place. So it was, when I walked down there, I had to show ID just to walk down the street. And there was, all of the, the temporary permanent tents set up to do that. And so it was pretty eye-opening, because they had to set up, basically take a whole city block as a semi-permanent place to deal with that. And of course, at that point, they were still finding remains. They found remains for years. So it was a little like intense at that point because security was so tight. And here I was just like a temp, just trying to like bring a poster over to somebody else. So there was the beginning of a 6-year journey.
It's sorry to hijack this, but it's funny to me. Like twice in our life, I remember moments that, not the morgue so much, but the going Ground Zero basically was a morgue in many ways. Yeah. And seeing that felt like it was overwhelming at times. But, just recently last year, I remember Jen and I would go and run with masks on, and I make sure I avoided everybody. And I remember I had a 8-miler to run. And so I'm running into Elmhurst and from Astoria, and remember next to the hospital, there were all these like refrigerated trucks, which they were using as
during
like,
COVID.
Extended COVID morgues.
Sure.
So it's funny, not funny. Funny is a complete wrong word, but it's notable that is something that can help a human being conceptualize the enormity of a situation.
Yeah. It is sometimes the peripheral things like that. Well, anyway, so as Mike already pointed out, that job led to a musical. We will talk more about that as we move forward. But now it is 100% time to move forward, to zoom out, and take a look at the world of October 13th, 2002, in a segment we call
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
Okay, well, we are listening once again to Dilemma with Nellie and Kelly Rowland, who recovered the first place on the charts from a moment like this, because a moment like this could only be there for a moment.
It was ephemeral, as all moments are.
Yeah, they are. The top movie continued to be Red Dragon, which took in $17 million in its second week of domination. And reading this actually reminded me, this was less than a month, or like a month and 2 days after. No, that's not true. It was a year and a month and 2 days. But there, in the Berlin Free Press, there was a huge terrorist attack in Bali that killed more than 130 people, probably more than that, but that's how much they knew on the 13th. So we were still very much in that pretty scary world at the time. But you know what's not scary? But what is inspiring and motivational and exciting and thrilling for all of our listeners, it's a segment we call...
It's time for sports ball.
The New York Football Giants lost a game to Doug Johnson and the Falcons 17-10 at home, dropping the team to 3-3. Former Giants and Broncos head coach and major character in Elway the Musical, Dan Reeves, was the head coach for Atlanta. The Eagles were on a bye, but Shannon Sharp caught 12 balls for 214 yards and 2 TDs for the Broncos.
All right.
Yeah, Shannon Sharp. Whew, what a day.
What a day. Now he's just bloviating on the, the thing. All the time.
Yeah, he's still entertaining. He was always entertaining. Gotta say that. And, we should keep talking about nonsense,
I'm
but...
a human
oh,
being.
no!
God damn it! My life has value, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
It's time to talk about the damn episode!
Oh, mercifully. Here we are talking about The Practice, Season 7, Episode 3 of The I Sing, which was, and we have a complicated writer breakdown, as a story and teleplay by David E. Kelley, but a story credit was also given to Jonathan Shapiro. And it was directed by Michael Zinberg, who last directed Pro Se, which also, because we learned some rules about the Pro Se. In that case, you couldn't have, the opposing lawyer could not have shit on Gus Fring's lawyering about himself. So we just learned that. That's very important. Now that we have that information, there's a really important question we need to ask. I gotta hit the button right.
What is that supposed to mean?
What's your problem?
Is this what happens to women when you insert your penis?
What?
What?
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
You know, what if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
Keith, we have done everything to get Lindsay this new trial. Okay.
Yes.
And we have learned through research, very detailed research that we did all on our own, that self-defense isn't going to work. And
That's right.
our previous trial...
We did the research? Who did the research?
Very much ourselves, all by ourselves. We did it.
Yeah.
With no help from anyone. In fact, that segment that I invented back in Time True Crime, I do all of the writing for it.
Oh, yes.
We don't read word for word someone else's work.
Yes,
That's not what we do.
Some people do it in an expected way, but you do it, Jorge. You
And
do it, Jorge. Written apologies will be in your email this week,
The stupidity
Jorge.
of that is hitting me in waves.
It's layered in its stupidity.
It's like a cat fart. You think it's over, but it just keeps coming back to just assault you again. So what I'm getting at here is that
It's like a cat fart.
Is that
it's true though?
Unfortunately, we're not going to be saved by good writing. We're going to get a Deus Machina. And Keith, I've mentioned it before. And your two-shot from this week is informing me yet again. I'll pull it up here for our friends. It's telling me that after one too many, our DA is going to keep spouting off about how bad he wants to screw the firm and put Lindsay away, that he's going to let squeak, Keith, a couple of secrets, all right, that could be used covertly against them. Now, Helen is of questionable scruples, so she's decided she's got to play it close to the vest. However, Keith, in the jumpy sharky moment, the DA is going to go...
where are you going to bring in the sexy shark?
Is going to go back to the old well of tropes, and he's going to make the DA Schmitchovich get all sexy hitting on Helen. And he's going to make some uncomfortable, sexy passes. And Helen's going to be so pissed and offended that she decides to secretly go to the firm and aid the defense of Lindsay Dole incognito as a under the table
dressed as a shark.
mole, if you will.
A shark.
A mole shark.
A mole shark.
A mole on the ass of the shark that is the DA's office. And so we're going to get sex. We're going to get drunken Schmitchovich. We're going to get covert meetings with Helen and the firm, like in that garage where her buddy got gunned down. And
wait. So they're going to break in to his garage because that was his private garage. And
no, it wasn't. That was like the parking garage.
Oh, he was gunned. Oh, that's right. He had because he had a gun held to his head and threatened in his garage.
I'm talking about his actual.
And then he
demise.
got killed in the parking garage. Okay.
So this is what I think is going to happen. Or at least maybe not all this episode, but it's going to start here.
Okay. Well, on that mole riding the shark's ass, it is now your time to hop over to your podcasting service of choice, or stay on it. If you didn't watch the YouTubes, I mean, you're missing my clean-shaven face, let's face it.
Yep.
But it's time to hop over to your podcasting service of choice and listen to us listen to Of the I Sing. We'll see you back for the after show.
And we are back, baby!
Back.
Freedom! I gotta tell you, that was actually very satisfying, Keith, because though I was lamenting a little bit there and there that I wanted to see the new trial, but we had kind of talked about it. We didn't really get the chance. We kind of used up all of what the second trial would have been, right? So this was sort of our it wasn't a Deus Machina either. I mean, it was sort of, but it still felt fleshed out and satisfying to me. I feel sated. But let's talk all about
freedom on a technicality, because she totally murdered that dude. All right. Yeah. We just did a little bit of tires. I did a little recap, but that's not what we do. That's not how we do it. We do it with this.
2, 3, 4. Mike has 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show. Segment.
Yo, DA is pissed, y'all. And he's pissed because guess what? He hid a little note away and Helen found it and was like, we got to be better, even though that's a little bit hypocritical. But regardless, they get their day in court. Eleanor is fired the fuck up and she says this guy should be taken to task and Lindsay should get out. And guess what? Lindsay gets out. And meanwhile, John Cryer shows his dick for no apparent reason and Stringer got a comedy case because that's what we're doing here.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Now, could you do it again? Just faster?
I suppose.
All right.
Helen is a shark. Cryer says don't smoke with dick. DA's up Schmitz Creek.
Wow. Well done. Well done, sir. That was a very good haiku, as always. And it's time to hand out some fresh and exciting awards in a segment we call...
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present...
OOPSY Oopsies! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike!
What the hell are the oopsies?
Well, I'll tell you, Jackie. They're a fake award show that begin with some glorious singing in a segment we call...
That's really, you really need to decant it. It's so fine.
That's right.
You
gotta let it breathe. Gotta let it,
Well, guys, it was a team effort here. There's a world where you want to argue that Helen really gets it here because she was the sleuth that uncovered it, but she that's not in her capacity as a lawyer in any way. I think that, are you going to argue that it is? Okay, we'll hear it out. But I think that Eugene and Eleanor, I think Eleanor deserves her retribution. She took it and gave an incredible, stern, and well-argued presentation to the judge. And I think that I'm going to give it to Eleanor because it was in her official capacity litigating that got her best friend. Well, no, I'm not going to say best friend. She got her colleague and dear friend out of prison.
Yeah, and I think that Eleanor did do a great job, and it was her redemption a little bit, redemptive arc there, and I thought that was really good. However, she was handed a great case to argue, an easy case to argue because it was so black and white, because it was a Deus ex Helena that I would argue that Helen did do this as her capacity, not only as a lawyer, but as an officer of the court.
Okay, she did say as much to Schmitzovich.
Yeah, like exposing an injustice in the court system, whether or not it's for your team or the other team, it is her duty and obligation as an officer of the court to expose this information. And she did so, kind of all backhandedly because it's Helen. That's how she rolls. But I think she did the right thing. I think she... whether or not justice was served in the small picture, as our Judge Bernie brought up, she did help justice in the big picture. So my argument is for Helen. So congratulations, Eleanor and Helen. The famous Helenor has won its most valuable lawyer. Oopsie, coming up next.
Already famous because you've been on TV, getting a paycheck, or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go, but you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
Some days that's the only exercise I get.
I was just about to say that shouldn't wind me, but
listen to two 40-year-olds wheeze into the microphone for this segment.
That actually, Keith, sorry to what's the word? Digress. But as we do fat shame quite a bit and whatnot, but ourselves, mind you. But I do work out quite a bit.
You do.
My fitness level is relatively high. However, I did something the other week because I couldn't show you on camera. I was doing the box jumps on the curb, and I smashed my shin and I effed it up pretty good. So I haven't been able to do those in a while, and so I was like, I got to replace this part of my workout. I need some high intensity interval training. So let me start light, and I did an exercise which I will not reveal just yet. And all I did was 1 minute on, 60 seconds rest, 1 minute on, 60 seconds rest, times 5. So 5 minutes of work, 5 minutes of rest. The next day,
Your dick was so sore.
I was destroyed. I napped for 3 hours in the afternoon. I was just so tired. Do you know what that exercise was, Keith? Jump rope.
Really?
I jump roped for 5 minutes interspersed, and it was incredibly hard. So it was humbling, and I never felt older.
Yeah. Well, I get it. Well, I mean, it's hard because you're literally having to jump. Like, jumping is hard. And there's a rope involved.
Yeah, I mean, literally. So, you know what else is hard? Choosing between two actors this week, because I want to give a shout out to the actor who plays the judge who's been presiding over this case.
Yeah, Frank Burney.
Frank has been, I call him Frank, we're friends.
Yeah.
Has been so excellent in his just about to lose his top on both sides of this case, and has never been really handed the oopsie. And this week, he is so delightful in his delivery, in his admonishment of both sides, and then in his sort of monologue at the end when he hands down his defense of the judicial system, his defense of the law, and sort of smacks down Schmitzevich. It was really, really wonderful. And I'm very tempted to give him the oopsie here. Now, the problem he has is that, once again, D.A. Schmitzevich is D.A. Walsh is actually, but we're his best guest actor. So Schmitzevich, who's still in his capacity as a guest actor, is just wonderful. He's helped out by the writing. The writing is really great for him because they don't, though I keep saying, you'll hear me during the episode, keep saying they just make him a flat out bad guy. They do because we want our hero to prevail. But he's well reasoned for the most part. He's grounded in his intentions. You believe every second of his anger and his desire to get Lindsay, and the fact that it's not just about her and it's not just about the law, but there's a personal vendetta that is consuming him. And I think that all of that could be a little schlocky, could potentially be a little melodramatic if not handled with such care. So for that reason, I think for the second week in a row, Schmitzevich is going to win this award, though I just couldn't let it go by without giving kudos to Frank, actor.
Your buddy Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on all of that. It's funny talking about Frank, our buddy Frank, as the judge here, because now looking back on it, you have to think from the writer's room, how do you select which judge you should give this giant case to? And because we've seen Frank many times, but he's not one of those judges we have a personal relationship with. Whether it's Kittleson or Hunt or whatever, or even one of the Renee's judge, where either we have a personal relationship with, or we know this judge is this way or that way. That leans in this direction because we know that Renee's judge is like a liberal judge and he's sort of going to go off on a soapbox this way, or Kittleson is wackadoo. Or Hunt has a problem, has a complicated relationship with Bobby. I think selecting Burney as the judge means that we don't have a personal relationship with him. We don't know which side he usually sides with, so he's just playing it straight down the line. So from the writing perspective, we're not tipping our hand about where the case is going to go through the selection of which judge we're going to use. And that's an important skill too, because sometimes we want the flashy judge who's going to do all this crazy stuff, but sometimes we want to make it about the argument. So he sort of has to bring integrity and credibility without tipping our hand. A perspective. We just want to watch the arguments of the lawyers. We don't want to make it about what the judge is going to do. So anyway, good work. But yes, it's definitely Schmitzevich. I thought he did a terrific job. Again, he's what's great about him is that he is rock solid every time. And he's been given increasingly difficult things to do. And he nails it every time. And this time, like in his weird breakdown at the end, which I thought the writing on the page might have been a little schlocky, but he performed it well enough to get away with a little bit of schlockiness in the writing. So congratulations to Bill Smichevich for your best guest actor.
You know what? To forgive the writing a little bit there, I think that they set it up well with one of his conversations with Helen at the bar, because you could see that he takes being admonished in court, that embarrassment is very palpable for him. Yeah. And he takes his response as anger, because even just her bringing the appeal, that, you know, the things she said in the appeals court, he mentioned how angry that made him. So to get that sort of rebuke from...
No, for sure. I mean, the trigger was definitely set up and justified. And, you know, we showed him drinking twice and brought it up. So I certainly feel like that might have been a factor. They could have set that up a little earlier. But anyway, it's good stuff. We need to move on and talk about our...
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
It's one of those weeks, guys. There's no one's jumping off the page to me. Kelly Williams barely says anything. Excellent. Even in her first scene of the show, excellent. Dylan McDermott, excellent, somber all the way through. Eugene, so good. Guess what? Marla Sokoloff, here for it. She's got a couple of scenes this week. Welcome to the show. Rebecca, that one time they showed your face. Awesome. Wonderful actress who plays Jamie Stringer. Man, you took that shovel of shit and shoveled it.
You sure did.
But I think for me, you know, we often talk about Cameron having to play a wide range of things, and that's why, and she's so great at it. But sometimes, to be a great actress doesn't mean you have to do that, right? Sometimes you have a very singular mission. And this episode, she got it, right? And she didn't do anything flashy, she didn't do anything special, but just the power and the presence that she brought, I think, is speaking to me. That just that last scene, or that last, I guess, sequence, presenting the appeal case to the judge, the Rule 30 case, just had so much weight. I don't even see any superpowers from it. It's what stuck with me. It's the performance that stuck with me, and so I'm gonna give it to Cameron.
Yeah, I mean, Cameron is never a bad option. I think it's Lara Flynn's episode, frankly. I think she's the linchpin on which all of the episode revolves, and I think she is, watching her decision-making process of seeing where Walsh was going, and I think it really wasn't written in the text, but there had to have been in the subtext of their first scene together. Something prompted Helen to start researching, right? And the sort of like, wow, he's pretty far off the rails. I wonder if there's something else going on here that's worth looking into. Because why didn't she do it during the first trial? Why wasn't, throughout, months have gone by, what prompted her to finally decide, let's dig around here, see what we can find? I don't think that was necessarily written in there, but I thought that Lara Flynn justified it. So congratulations on another split oopsie, too.
Yeah,
Oh, hold on.
No. Just to continue that acclaim. Helen is one of those characters that, as we've noted, isn't always her arc isn't always smooth. It's more of a erratic plotline. And yet, just like some of the other characters we've mentioned, she's always able to find a trajectory that seems grounded somewhere. And they've really written her all over the place. And so, all of a sudden, her finding like behaving altruistically, yet still finding that nugget of, I need to look in the mirror. She's great. She's great, is what we're saying.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to know who's not great? It's our good friend,
The Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
What do we got this week?
I've been thinking about it. I was thinking about if I was going to make you do this.
Oh, great.
But I have to. This week's Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady is presented to dropping his pants in court, Tom Brady.
Great.
Sometimes you gotta just calls it like you sees it.
Yeah, go straight down the zipper. Okay. Great. Thanks for that. Now it's time for...
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
Take it away, Mike.
Well, I often lament that we have to sort of look at these episodes in a vacuum because I'm upset about them for whatever reason in context. This week, I'm happy about it because divorced from all of the sort of back and forth with the Lindsay arc we've had, we don't like the way they argued it. She's in federal prison, which is kind of bizarre. Now there's an appeal, and she loses the appeal, or she wins the appeal, but now we got to do a whole nother trial, but we don't have a defense thing. We got to answer the questions. How are we going to get out of this? Divorced from all of that. Just our character is in this position. This is what happens over the, this is very effective for me. Also, it works as a kind of a twisty twist because I just really did believe that we were going to have to go through another trial, that we were building for like a whole arc where we're going to do this thing. In reality, I think they found a really smart, yes, if not Deus Machina based out, if you will.
Yeah.
Which we kind of have, you and I have sort of sleuthed over the past few weeks that it's really our best way out is that we're going to need Smichevich to have done something shitty, right? Or D.A. Walsh to have done something shitty. Egregiously shitty. Maybe not as egregiously as I postulated, but regardless. However, it was pretty excellently written and incredibly well performed across the board. It was believable. It was, and they didn't just have Helen do it all sneak. She had consequences. She dealt with them head on, which creates potential plots going forward. It sets the table very nicely. They actually put themselves in a really good position. They get Lindsay back. I don't know what that means or what that will look like, but hey, that's a question I have, and I'm interested. And we have a whole season to go. It's a neat way to finish this early in the season, yet there will be fallout. It didn't feel like that one Eleanor plot from last season where they kind of just wrote it off and it was done. Right? So I dug it. And I got that moment where I'm like, fuck this guy. I want to beat him. And then I got a celebratory moment at the end. And I got a dun, 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 what's going to happen. I got everything that makes me very happy. The only thing, Keith, that I also got was a hefty dose of penis. And I am not a prude individual. I love a dick joke as much as the next person. But a dick joke for the sake of a dick joke doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, I get it. We want to give Jamie something to do. And we're trying to show that, you know what, I'm even going to make the old college try. I'm going to try to make lemonade out of lemons here because that's who I am. But we've done that before with other characters. We did that with Jimmy when Jimmy jumped on. Like we've the recycle bit feels recycled. Not only is it recycled, it's not funny. It's not funny, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't funny the first time we did it. It's not funny this time. It was kind of funny when, or at least shocking when Kittleson first mentioned the erection stuff, and then it was less funny when she did it in the courtroom, but okay, it was still Kittleson, so it was badass. But by now, it's like, you have to be like, what's happening? Like, why? And if it's not going to add anything, just take it out. The episodes are short, and this is like the biggest dramatic plot we've had of the whole series. Why do we need to counterpoint it with anything? We don't. I don't give a shit. I don't care if it's John Cryer. and he's totally wasted in this episode, I think. Just totally wasted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jamie Stringer's totally wasted. It really is a black eye on it for me, to be honest. I know it's not that egregious, but it feels that way because it's juxtaposed with the biggest thing we've done. And I'm also pissed. Sorry, vacuum. But this was Rebecca's baby, right? We built this huge thing up for Rebecca, and I guess she did get us to this point. But come on, you know what I mean? I guess we had to give Eleanor the final swing because she's the one who. I don't know. I feel really disappointed for Rebecca as a character, and for Lisa Gay, who I thought was going to get a shot to really chew the scenery here. But maybe it's coming in another episode. So those are my two rather big nits to pick.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been skewing high lately, although you gave it higher last week. I do still think it's really great, so I'm gonna just like it. It really feels like an 8.5 divorced of the Criers plotline.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta take off a half a tire, so I'm gonna say 8 stars, tires, 8 whatevers, 8 dicks. 8 dicks, partially up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with all of that. I mean, I think with the Deus Ex Helena of the whole thing, I think they were sort of where we were. There isn't enough there to do another trial. So they needed to have something like this. And they didn't set this one up specifically, which it would have been great had they been able to like thread the needle a little bit here and set this particular thing up. But even though they didn't, they did set up through Smitrovich's character, through Walsh, that something like this is very believable that could have happened. It is completely believable that he would have done this based on the characterization going in. So that I think that helps it a lot. I like that. I think one of the things that wasn't quite addressed, but I think would have been interesting to get into is, all right, so what happened here is Lindsay gets off because of Smitrovich's mishandling of this report. Because he's like, I don't agree with it. It's wrong. We've got these other guys saying the opposite. But we know as an audience, because we saw what happened, that report was wrong. He wasn't moving towards Lindsay in that moment. And that's kind of interesting that she got off because he buried a report that was an exculpatory report that was wrong, because we were eyewitnesses to the event. I don't know exactly what you do with it, but it's interesting.
That's clever.
It happens to work that way.
Well, it makes it more about his hubris than Lindsay's guilt.
Right, because I think by this point we've kind of established Lindsay's, by the letter of the law, guilty. And so, which also makes sense as to why she would agree to pleading at the beginning of the episode. So anyway, I like that Helen had a moment of conscience and does intervene here. I would have liked some sort of a transition scene, because I talked about it in Best Actor, how we had to see Helen make the decision, A, to intervene, and B, that there's something to smell a rat here. And I would have liked to see that decision point happen, because we didn't really. It wasn't written into the script that Helen recognizing, ooh, I bet there's something here. We just see her investigate it. I don't know exactly how you show that, but as a writer, I'd want that beat. I would like to see a moment of, as a director, maybe, while in that scene with Smitrovich at the bar, maybe, give her a single where she's like, something's going on. That it can be all nonverbal, but set up going to it. Yes, Mike?
Along those lines, the other thing, I didn't mention this, I would agree if we're going to add that scene, because I like it. I also would flip the scene where D.A. Walsh comes and says, I know it was you, et tu, Brute. I'd rather Helen had gone to him and been like, it was me. Because
Yeah.
I think otherwise, because it happened so quick, like there was no suspense in the who was it. You know what I mean? You might as well have her be like, I did this.
Yeah. No, and although I don't think she was particularly hiding it, but yes, I think it would have been interesting had Helen done that. So all of that, honestly, I think they landed that better than I expected them to. Based on the hand, I was going to say, based on the hand they were dealt. No, based on the hand they dealt themselves, they played it pretty well. To get to the dick of it all, I did a quick bit of mental research and see if there's any other reference that I'm forgetting here. But at this point, the following people we have discussed exposing their dicks, right? We did it to Richard Schiff as the homeless guy who, he called it like his one-eyed Willie or something like that. He had to show them to the people, right? Kittleson's shaming the guy who exposed himself to whatever, made him drop his pants in the courtroom. That's 2. Harlan Bassett tried to get his client off by showing his giant dick to Judge Hiller, right? We just 2 episodes ago, we had the pud guy talking about showing his pud and touching his pud and blah, 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 blah. And then this show is so dick obsessed. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
You ridiculous.
It is, yes, it is. It's ridiculous more than is necessary. So I don't quite understand what the obsession is here. It feels like we need a comic beat. Let's just do a dick story. It's kind of lazy. And I would have liked them to elevate the target a little bit above the waist at some point if you're going to do a comic beat
now,
story.
we usually do a bit about the writer's room, but I'm in all sincerity. Like, in a writer's room, they bounce ideas off one another. Somebody has to be the voice of us being like, guys, don't you feel like we did this before? And like, isn't this a lot of dick? Like, or maybe you're right. Maybe it's just like a lot of college dudes who were like, dick. Yeah.
It feels like a writer's room that they just hired a complete new set every year and didn't hand them the DVD box set on their way in. They're like, oh, a dick story, hilarious. Even though like David E. Kelly wrote most of these things. So, David, I think you need to talk to Freud a little bit and figure out why so many dicks in your show. Anyway, we're not here to talk about dicks. We're here to talk about tires. And all dicking aside, I actually also really liked this episode. I thought they landed it better than they had any right to with this. I like setting up what's happening with Simichevich here. Are we going to see him descend into madness a little bit, which is an interesting story. We haven't done that one yet, so I'm on board. I hope you continue it. I hope that's not the last we see of that arc. So all in all, I think I'm pretty much in line with you on this. So I'm gonna give it just to be contrary, I'm gonna give it an 8.07.
All right, there you go. So that's like 8+. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's just oh god, now we're exploding.
I deserved it.
You did deserve it. Okay, well, there's only one last thing to do. Why don't we deal with that Easter egg, sir?
Is that Superman 4?
Hell yeah, it's Superman 4.
Yeah, it is. Something's playing right now. Some shitty CGI, and CGI is not it.
It's not
shitty practical effect is playing on your screen right now.
This is when Nuclear Man gets French tips to take off.
Four's the one with Richard Pryor, right?
No, that's 3. How you're the Superman fan? How do you not know this?
Because after 2, we don't really talk about it.
Well, but this is the one where this is where it wasn't canon. It was, or was it canon? Took over and did the crazy low budget disaster.
Yeah,
that is.
Oh yeah, Nuclear. Yes,
it's Nuclear Man.
Back. It's all coming back to me now.
I think for not knowing that, Mike has an assignment before next episode. You're going to have to watch Superman 4, and we're going to need a book report on Superman 4. That is your punishment, so that you can see John Cryer's amazing performance in Superman 4. All right, folks, if you are still listening, you are super people, because you have gotten through another episode of the Out of Practice podcast. We will see you next week for Season 7, Episode 4. If you would like to write and complain or give us your book reports on Superman 4, you can reach us at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com on the YouTube comments right below. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Out of Practice Podcast. While you're there, leave us a rating and review. Nobody has done it since Season 2. Do it just to surprise us. Give me something to be shocked by. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other podcasting service of your choice. You can join the jury. And while you're there, give us a chance to thank our founding sponsors, MVP of this episode, Jorge Novoa, Cloud Lover 69, Leanne Wrights, Jennifer Massanova, and Kari Kuhn.
Did you know that people give us money? That's right. Those founding sponsors gave us money, one-time contribution, or a sustaining membership. You can do one of those two things by clicking the links that I put every week in our show notes. Folks, you can also help us out by simply telling somebody you know to watch the podcast or have them look at my Star Trek toys here on YouTube. At the end of the day, all you need is a good buddy to fax you over some exculpatory evidence, and then we can get a whole new trial and fire off some brand new laser sounds.
You want to know what gets a mole off of a shark? A laser sound. Boom.
Much better. Well done.